Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm taking a brief break from my series I'm doing on everything wrong with Kim Empty Inside to talk about another bad book by the late fraud Beatrice Sparks, who is not a PhD as she pretended to be in pretty much like all of her books after her heyday. I mean, I have not finished reading this yet. I've only just like begun reading it. So this is mostly based on, of course, what I've read so far, plus like skimming through it and reading other people's reviews. It is bad. I tried reading this previously, maybe 7, 8 years ago, and I DNF'd it after maybe like 25, 30 pages or so. It's horrible, 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 as you will soon come to see. And I did do like a few weeks ago, I believe, a video, just a general preliminary overview of like this book plus some Kim Empty Inside, and this is just going to get into, of course, some more details. Let's see how many numbers I will get to in this series. Maybe I'll get to 100 things wrong with this book, and this is going to be based off a blog post scheduled to go live on my main blog on the 24th of February 2025. So if you guys see it prior to that date, this is a sneak preview, so let's just start getting down with it. Holy hell, this book somehow manages to be even worse than the worst Beatrice Sparks book. I know that's a shocking feat to accomplish, since she strayed from her usual format, which was, and of course the writing sucked ass as usual, but at least there was, like, relatively speaking, a winning formula for her. So her usual format of a fake journal, and she did a pretended case study, totally proving like if she was trying to make people believe she was a real psychologist, this was like the worst possible way to do it, like revealing she had no damn clue what happens in an actual case study, in an actual therapy session. Like I have a future video planned and blog post about how she knew jack about psychology and like everything in all of her books proving this. No one normal enjoys reading a book that's 99% dialogue with 100% telling instead of showing. And I think I'll like hold the book up to the camera as I get to that point later on. So number one, the Dr. Philip Morgenstern, who endorses this crap, is made up, just like all the other doctors she quoted. Also, like all her other fake doctors, he has a stereotypically Jewish name, which says a lot about what Dr. Fraud thought of us. And I didn't realize this, put two and two together, until I saw Rick Emerson mentioning it and Go Ask Alice, and he put it in a footnote. He's like, oh, there's no other way to put it. Like, all these doctors she made up to endorse all of her books, including the ones unfinished in progress found in her papers after she passed, they all had like stereotypically Jewish names. Like she thought, oh, all Jews are doctors. And of course, like she stereotyped as bankers too, and Kim Empty Inside, and tyrannical like science professors, not just ordinary people. Why couldn't she just use like a variety of names? It's like everything she does. I mean, of course, in, like isolation, and every so often, like one or two of these things, like, oh, okay, that's just, a name or whatever, or she's just showing like XYZ. But like when you constantly do them and you put them all together, it's sending really disturbing messages about like what you think. But again, she was an old guard Molly Mormon, couldn't really think outside of that frame of reference. Number two, I'm positive the endorsements from the 14 readers in the front matter are fake too. What actual teen in the 90s would enjoy this crap or relate to it? And she had like people giving testimonials at the front of It Happened to Nancy too, and I'm positive those were also made up. And one of these is name withheld as at request. PJ. Oh, and of course the all caps, she loves that. Sammy knows me, but he doesn't know that in the past I've tried to off myself too. I didn't know any ways out then, cue the all caps, but I do now. Thanks, Sammy. PJ, and name withheld at request. Marianne, age 14. Josh, age 16. My family has lots of problems. There's no way we could afford a psychologist, though, for counseling. I've gone to the school counselor, but she's got so many sent to her, she can't even remember our names. Oh, nice job trying to shade actual psychologist, Dr. Fraud. I'm going to try to get my family to read this book together. Oh, boy. I think my parents would have laughed out loud in my face if I suggested we read this crap together. It can't hurt, but helping? I guess I can be positive and hope. We need lots of help, though. I've wondered what it would be like to go through therapy. I thought it would be deep and scary, like someone getting you to remember things that were horrible and maybe didn't even happen. Oh, this is beyond rich and hypocritical, coming from someone who's like second, or not technically her third book, but her second major book most people know about and have actually read. The second book was Voices, Jay's Journal. That played a huge part in jump starting the satanic panic and the recovered memories thing. So like, how dare you even like, what is going on upstairs? Like, was she totally tone deaf and clueless as to how Jay's Journal played a role in the whole recovered memories satanic ritual abuse crap? Now I know it's more like looking for the good stuff, because like real therapy is all happy clappy Mormon, just think positive thoughts. And I wish my whole family could learn to listen and play help yourself and everybody else head games and learn to get along more and help each of us get rid of the bad hurting stuff in our lives, said every 14-year-old ever, like Sammy and his family did. La la la. Oh boy, I'm gonna have so much fun ripping apart this garbage. Number 3, Dr. Morgenstern uses the word nothingness, as does Sammy. I'm sure I'll find many other uses of it in the coming like 200 or whatever pages. One of Dr. Fraud's many giveaways was ramming ness onto the end of words, like amazingness, awesomeness, radicalness, magnificentness, ness, nessykins. Oh boy, what an idiot. She could not write worth crap. Number 4. Are we supposed to believe Sammy has read all 4 of Dr. Fraud's prior books up to that point? The Go Ask Alice, Voices. The title is in all caps because of, her pet fetish. Jay's Journal, and It Happened to Nancy. This was her 5th book she published. A teen boy in the 90s, or hell, any teenager in the 90s, or just anyone in general of any age. I mean, most people, I'm sure, like particularly of the 70s, came of age in the 70s, they read like Go Ask Alice and Jay's Journal, and Go Ask Alice is still a huge bestseller, like 50 years later. But who would have been reading like Voices? Or I mean, maybe I was unusual for reading It Happened to Nancy and looking forward to finally getting my own copy from the library. I'm pretty sure most of my peers at that age weren't interested in that book, or they thought, oh, that's not something that would interest me. She's just like trying to put a big ass advertisement on herself, like, oh, tooting her own horn, and I'll get to more of that in future videos. And that he liked these books and felt he knew Dr. Fraud through those books. I mean, oh boy, this, like, how like, she doesn't even appear as a character in the first 2 books. And I have so much to rant about this crap and Dr. Fraud herself in future videos. Number 5, these like phrases made me laugh out loud, and this is just a small sampling of the many like stupid phrases Sammy uses. Why the hell would a hardened street boy use phrases like prepare to like laugh? Establishment horse hockey, gobbledygook poop. What? Ratty bratty boob tube. He's saying, I'm just a ratty bratty boob tube and maggot infested yuck and stink. Or refer to his genitals as like, privates. Like, what? That's a creepy scene. He's talking about he came home like beaten, and his mother had to help like roll him into the shower, and his shorts are clinging to him. Oh, I was afraid. I didn't want my mommy to see my private parts, but as a nurse, I know she's seen lots of male private parts, and that was stupid of me to not want my mother to see my opposite sex genitals when I'm a teenager. Oh no, that was just me being stupid. Oh, that's such a creepy scene. Why are you even talking about your genitals and psychotherapy? That is so creepy and crosses all sorts of boundaries and lines. But again, she was not a real psychologist, didn't know jack, didn't even have an associate's degree in pre-psychology, Number 6, no one normal goes from resisting therapy and pretending to need the bathroom so he can run away in the first session to breaking down, spilling his guts in a long, uninterrupted, like info-dumpy backstory monologue, and admitting he needs help in the second session, 3 months and 19 days later. Oh boy, well, this was all made up, but still, this is not how real people's trauma and admitting they have a problem and gradually telling what led to the issue. It just does not compute. She knew nothing about how the brain works. Nothing. Number 7. If these sessions are all transcribed from audio tapes many months later, presumably, or who knows, maybe she claimed, I transcribed them all the very day they happened. How does Dr. Fraud remember to insert descriptions of body language and what exactly happened at a given moment? It's just so freaking stupid. I mean, most of it, it's like a screenplay without even dialogue tags. But and she does like little summaries of sessions sometimes, which is just like freaking stupid. So many dialogues. It's like Sammy looked pained. Like, how would she remember at that exact moment in that session what the look on his face was like? Oh, he grinned from ear to ear. Sammy shuddered. Oh, I raised my hand, or I started massaging him. But that's creepy. I'll get to that later. It's just so. Oh, she has like a couple of self-evaluation tests. He sighed so deeply it seemed to come from his toes. A big tear sneaked out of Sammy's right eye. And then there is no other way, blah, blah, blah. I saw Mo walking down the hall. He was so intense he appeared almost ready to fragment. I gripped his shaking hands tightly. Sammy cringed. Sammy seemed to have drifted out to another time, another dimension. He looked desperate. Like, I mean, and she just puts all this stuff into the book, not nearly enough because it's just basically almost all talking heads, but still, why would you? She's supposed to claim she has like a mimetic or eidetic or whatever the word is, memory. She like literally remembers everything, but otherwise it's just stupid. She's just embellishing it. Now, of course, it didn't really happen, but if this were a real session, how would any psychologist like remember if there's? It's just like audio tapes. There's no visuals to go along with it, and she expected people to go along with this crap. Thankfully, this seems to have been the book that kind of like sent her reputation slowly going the other way, and people started to wake up and say, this isn't good, this isn't realistic. Maybe I'll start like not regarding her other books as highly and looking for similarities. But let's move on. Number 8. I laughed out loud at the oft repeated terms positude, positudes, and negtudes, short for positive and negative attitudes. That's just such a stupid slang term. I've never heard anyone using that. Dr. Fraud was so out of her league trying to sound down with modern slang, and she even failed in Go Ask Alice in Jay's journal when she was like still using slang that was current, like, it was still, popular and not just like laughably out of date in the 70s. She was trying way too hard to sound down with the kids, as she constantly calls teenagers. Number 90, no, I mean, not number 90, number 9. WTF kind of therapist touches a client's body parts, this is Sammy's mother, as she's leading her through a relaxation exercise. Wow. Maybe she took cues from the creepy temple anointings until, like, I think it was 1990 was when they took out the pretending to, like, slash their throats and disembowel themselves. I think it was, like, 2000 something when they took out you had to get like naked under a sheet, and the creepy usually old temple worker, many of them were like, people think they're perverts. They would like anoint the body with oil, and they would touch each body part, naked body part, in turn under the sheet as they said it, like breast, loins, like forehead, navel. It's creepy. So maybe that's where she get it. So like, this is like a legitimate thing for like auto hypnosis and relaxation and stuff. So you're like starting from like the crown of the head gradually down into your toes. You like think about each body part, and you like take breaths in and out, like in and out, and you just imagine them like getting like heavier or like lighter until you don't feel them at all. And then eventually, by the time you get down to the toes, you feel like totally like relax. Nothing can disturb you, when you're in the right like place of mind for doing like whatever, like a past life regression, or like more likely to have a lucid dream, or like awakening your soul purpose, or just like general relaxation if you don't believe in those other things. But that's like a totally normal. But if someone's leading you through it, that's like beyond unethical. Oh, now we're thinking about your head, and now you're relaxing your shoulders, and now you're relaxing your stomach. And that's creepy. And that's, psychologists should never be doing that in a session ever. And even more like ridiculous, she later tells Paula, oh, just jiggle your body like when your kids play Rubber Man or Mr. Jello. Just jiggle and jiggle, jiggle. Like what was she thinking with this stupidity? Number 10, even more WTF. Like, this is like beyond illegal too. She hugs Sammy and massages him multiple times. Like, oh, I'm giving you a shiatsu massage, Sammy. Oh, I'm going to hug you tightly and massage the tight points in your head and your neck and your shoulders. Oh, it's okay, babykins. Just take deep breaths. Like a 15-year-old boy, and she's a grown-ass woman, like 70, 80 years old, whatever at this point. Is this how she behaved with her real-life teens in her Mormon youth counseling practice? That's illegal, and I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. Of course, we know she was not a psychologist, but the morgue is obsessed with shunting people into endless calling, so they have almost no time left over for, personal life or life outside of the so-called church, as many former Mormons call it, TSCC, the so-called church. So I can believe she maybe worked as an uncredentialed youth counselor in a calling she had, but she was not a real psychologist doing that. And who knows what happened in that practice, but whatever, that's illegal. You should not be touching any of your psychological patients, clients, and for any reason whatsoever, and particularly if they are underage. That is, I'm just lost for words. This is just so freaking creepy and illegal. And she thought this would be totally kosher to put in a book that was going to be published. What? Number 11. As someone who has struggled with cyclical depression for years, I have a video for mental health, May 2024. I did some talking about that. It really angers and offends me to see depression depicted as something that can easily be cured with positive thoughts. And it's not really that bad. Just think good. And it wasn't caused by anything in your brain or nothing that was really that bad. It was just because daddy and mommy got divorced, and you weren't thinking, you didn't have a good enough pause-tude, and you let the negative toxicity in all caps invade your life instead of, cue the all caps, the positive power of positive thinking. You were too much focused on, and more caps, the negative power of negative thinking. Apparently, from what I read on Goodreads, lawyers made her include an epilogue saying Almost Lost doesn't deal with more serious issues like deep chronic depression, and that such cases need medication and referrals to trusted colleagues who specialize in those specific areas. What colleagues? You are not a real psychologist. This is just classic cover your ass mode, and it's just it's not even one page. It's like a half of a page, if that. It doesn't deal with chemical imbalance problems, deep chronic depression, bipolar conditions. A bipolar doesn't have a hyphen in it, but it was totally out of it with how modern words are written. She would frequently use hyphens where no one uses them in the modern era, and other outdated spellings. Schizophrenia, hardcore environmentally imposed circumstances, chronic long-term self-conditioned, internal as well as external hostility, etc. Is this a word salad way of blaming the victim? I'm positive, I'm sure it is, given what she revealed in all of her other books. Such usually longer term cases, of course it's going to be longer term many times for the rest of your life if it's a legitimate brain wiring thing. Revert to trusted colleagues specialized in those specific areas. Many of the above conditions called for prescribed medications. Oh boy, she was a Mormon, so they don't really believe in therapy and medication, and depression can be cured easily. She would not have inserted that, included it, if lawyers hadn't made her her lying ass do this. Number 12. Even when writing a supposed case study transcribed from tapes, she can't resist her pet fetish of constantly writing in all caps, and pretty much every single character in this story does this. It's just open up to a random page. Well, not every single page, she wanted people to throw it off, but just any page. Choosing negative paths can lead only to negative destinations. Hate thing, bad thing, night boogies. That was particularly goofy, the night boogies, and boogie has two O's in it, otherwise it looks like it's pronounced night bogies. Just so stupid. Number 13. When do Sammy, his parents, or his sisters ever consent to having their sessions taped? She never even said anyone consented to any of this. Was Dr. Fraud secretly taping her real clients in the above mentioned supposed Mormon uncredentialed youth counseling practice and using them as inspiration for her books? I mean, that's just wow. Did she really think it was cool to just tape a psychotherapy session without consent, or just maybe even if someone did have consent, a real life psychologist, you can't just publish it in a book and say and just have it that's totally cool, no mention in the front matter, this person consented to having it taped. And I think she puts a brief thing thank you for not blowing out your candle. She dedicates the book to the character Sammy, who's not even real. And this quote just enrages me. I'll get to that in future things. People do not die from suicide. They die from sadness. Sammy, with his parents' approval, again, the parents don't exist, has consented to help others through the scary, black, pain-filled, unbelonging, no way out nothingness. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the quote from the fake doctor that he has recently exited by allowing his edited therapy session tapes to be assembled into the book Almost Lost. Love you, Sammy. Oh, wow, that's another thing, like taking that from Go Ask Alice, that love you. Number 14. The title, cover, and blurb are totally misleading, making it seem like a gripping story about a homeless teen's life on the streets and how he came out alive. Just look at this cover. Does this look like a book that's about just a case study, like transcribed from alleged tapes? The true story of an anonymous teenager's life on the streets. This is such freaking like false advertising. I mean, it does like mention the shrink stuff and like therapy sessions on the back, but it nothing about this indicates this is like anything but it just makes it look like it's a novel. And then you open the book and you're hit with like dialogue, talking heads, like psychotherapy session crap, just stupidity and false advertising. I would be annoyed if I had, bought this book when it originally came out in 96 and then came to find out, oh, this isn't a novel. It's just like a not even like a screenplay. It's just even like worse. Oh. Number 15. It's confusing enough when a traditionally structured novel, I was just getting to that point, has long, uninterrupted dialogue scenes with zero tags or descriptions every so often to make it clear who's speaking. Like, for example, like name, like brushed her hair as she said this, or like name, like, got up and like stalked around the room, like intense concentration in the forehead or something like that, because people tend to forget. This book is almost nothing but talking heads, like just open up to any like random page like this. Nothing but freaking dialogue. This is just stupid. Even like, when you're on, this is some of her like quizzes and stuff, even when you're like reading like a play, like Our Town or The Glass Menagerie or just something like that, A Raisin in the Sun, they will include, like the name in all caps of who's speaking before the dialogue, so you know who it is. This is just basically nothing but nothing, like dialogue tag upon dialogue. Not dialogue, just like nameless dialogue upon nameless dialogue. It's just so stupid. She did not how to write or structure. She should not have strayed from her like tried and true, as it were, formula of like a fake diary. Number 16, Buddha isn't a god. This is a section when she's talking to Sammy about spirituality. I'm shocked she pretended to acknowledge anything beyond Mormonism. He's revered, not worshipped, and cautioned his disciples against treating him like a god. Stark contrast to how Dr. Fraud's cult worships their own founder. I'm still waiting for some Joe Smith worship references to sneak into this book, or in the only one I haven't yet read, Voices, or maybe there was like a covert reference in one of her like other books I read a while ago, but I just didn't pick it up at the time. I had a thing in a few previous videos about like their worship of their founder is like so creepy and cult. Like one person, even a nursery teacher, even said the quiet part out loud and said during December, Joseph Smith's birthday was way more important than Jesus. Wow. No words for that one. Number 17. The Talmud isn't religious scripture. It's 73 volumes of debate and discourse about Jewish law, plus, like debate, like allegories, like homilies. So many Christians have no idea what the Talmud is and isn't. And most people who claim they've read the Talmud have only read like that list of fake, repeatedly debunked quotes going around from what type of websites taken from a 19th century work of anti-Semitic propaganda. They have not read the entire book, which, by the way, is about 3 million words translated into English, or like one particular statement is just that. It's like what one rabbi said. I'm reading from like a screenshot quote from Twitter I included in the blog post, or it was remembered as something a rabbi said, and it may be an idiosyncratic opinion of no significance. It's not a holy book, and these like fake quotes are often like made up or distorted, and at the very least like severely taken out of context on purpose, or deliberately like mistranslated, and like which version, the Yerushalmi or Babylonian. But anyway, rant over. Number 18. Dr. Fraud loved the trope of teens declaring, wow, I thought I was the only one with this problem. I had no many idea so many other kids are just like me. And this is when the early on depression. It's like, are we supposed to believe Sammy has never heard of anyone else being depressed, even in the like pre-internet age? I mean, yeah, 96, but that was, and the calendar dates line up with 1994. But anyway, even then, like, had he never heard of anyone else being depressed, like, ever? Are we supposed to believe all of her alleged patients are that damn naive? Like, seriously. Number 19. Why did Dr. Fraud use the name Dory 2 books in a row in her most previous book before this? It happened to Nancy. Dory is one of Nancy's gaggle, and the one who gets knocked up by her 2 years older boyfriend Fred, and of course, being a good little unwritten Molly Mormon, obediently gives her baby away to a nice white and delightsome couple who lives like 3,000 miles away in California, and just like, oh, the baby's never mentioned again. I did the wrong thing, and I have to be punished by my mistake. Just give my baby up like a good little girl. Could she not be arsed to think up new names? Like, it's not that hard. There are like thousands upon thousands upon thousands of names she could have picked from instead of the same one twice in a row. Also, that name is seriously antiquated on a 90s 10-year-old. Like, what's it supposed to be short for? Like, Dorothy? Like, who? I mean, no offense to the name women, girls who are named like Dorothy, but you just don't really hear that name at all ever these days on anyone like under the age of 70, 80, or like Dorothea. I mean, I don't hear that name very often either. Like Doreen. Like, I mean, I had a bus driver named Doreen like when I lived in Pittsfield back in the late 90s, early 2000s, but she was, I think, 50-ish, maybe, or even early 60s at the time. Again, that's just not a name you associate with little kids. Why couldn't she name the other little sister is named Dana, but Dory, couldn't she have named her something more in tune and believable for the 90s, like Jessie or something like that? I mean, she did use Jenny in a couple of prior books, like Courtney, Amy, Danielle, like something that would make it seem like this girl was actually born in the 80s instead of in Dr. Fraud's own generation. Number 20. Yet again, Dr. Fraud pushes the idea that ugly things from the past, like Dad Lance's drug addiction when they're talking near the end of the page. Oh, I can't tell my daughters. That's gagging garbage. I can't speak of that. Oh, it's just a sin. Oh, no, I'm ashamed of it. That these ugly things should be stuffed away like shameful secrets instead of wallowed in. Like, she uses that phrase over and over in her books. And she claimed to be a psychologist. Oh, a horrible, horrible, horrible book. I cannot wait to rip into all the rest of this book and do many more videos on this. But I also do have some more upcoming Kim videos about them. Kim Empty Inside, about why she's totally wrong about eating disorders, and plus the whole full detailed synopsis and review of the book. So thank you guys very much for listening all the way through to the end. I love seeing comments from you guys, although I have been a bit in arrears lately from getting back to comments with all my other writing and transcription volunteering commitments. So I will see you guys again very soon. Bye.